Hey H&K fans, James here with another Target of Opportunity video for you. This weekend we're here at Loft where our families train for our annual HK Pro training event, and that creates a unique opportunity. Not only do we get to see old friends as well as new friends and spend a whole weekend working with H&K weapons, but because it's sponsored by H&K and they are kind enough to allow me to select certain weapons from the gray room and bring them here so that we could do a presentation for the participants, it also gives me the opportunity to showcase another unique H&K firearm for you guys. So people ask me quite often, hey James, do you have favorites? And I certainly do, and this here is one of them. Some of you guys may recognize this as an HK21 series weapon. Others might say, James, you already messed this up. That's not a 21, that's actually an 11. And then I would say, yeah, well, actually it's a G8. We're all right, and we're also wrong at the same time. But we'll talk about why that is as we go through and we look at this awesome weapon. So let's talk about HK21 series. It is a belt-fed 7.62 NATO machine gun designed by H&K originally to complement their G3 battle rifle. When they designed that for German service, there was an obvious need to have a machine gun to be a companion to that. At the time, the decision was made to go with Rheinmetall, who had basically updated the World War II era MG42 into chambering it for 7.62 NATO, and that was adopted as their general purpose machine gun. But H&K went forward and created what would become the HK21 series based off of the G3's receiver and roller delayed blowback operation, and they would see that successful as an export weapon for several other countries. Fast forward into the 1970s, and they would update that again into the A1 variant and begin to offer it in 5.56 as well. And then in the early 1980s, we would see the Echo variants come out, also in 7.62 and 5.56. They're all based on the same receiver. So if you came in and looked closely at the top of the receiver where you would normally see, H&K MP5 or, G3 on there, you don't see that. It just says H&K and then you've got a serial number. That is because this is a modular system. The actual weapon is the same regardless of what configuration or caliber you put it in. You just change out some modular components, and that allows you to go from an HK21, which is a belt-fed machine gun, to an HK23, which is a magazine, an HK11, which is a magazine-fed 7.62 machine gun. Or you can convert the components, and now you can make it a 5.56 belt-fed machine gun as a 23, or a 5.56 magazine-fed machine gun as an HK 13. Really, really cool. Well, how do they do that? If you remove your rear takedown pins and remove the bolt group, and then you push out another push pin, you can remove this magazine unit. And now if you install your belt-fed bolt group and install your belt-fed feed unit, you can change it from magazine to belt-fed. You can do the same thing with the calibers. You would obviously just need to change the barrel. And that's a good segue into how unique the barrel changing is. Obviously, with a machine gun like this, you're going to want to be able to change the barrels, as the barrels will get hot through sustained fire. We'd seen earlier designs that it was not very easy to have that done. You'd have to have some kind of asbestos glove to hold onto the barrel so you didn't burn your hand in the middle of a firefight. With the H&K design, it's just as simple as pulling the charging handle back to rear and locking it up, and then grabbing onto this support, rotating it up, pushing forward, and the barrel comes out. Then you can grab a whole new barrel, slide it back in the reverse order, rotate it down, send the charging handle forward, and now you're ready to go. It's about as easy and safe as I've ever seen on a barrel change, and really cool. You can see here at the front, we have a bipod that allows you to give a little bit of swivel in left and right, as well as a little bit of rotation on the bipod back and forth. You also, really unique, I haven't seen this on any other machine gun design, you can actually disconnect the bipod from the front position, and there is another mounting position at the rear. So if you want more or less lateral movement from a fixed position of your weapon, you can just change the position of where the bipod is. Here at the top of the receiver, you can see a spring-loaded carrying handle, which allows you to transport the weapon easier and moves out of the way when you don't need it. And then if you look here on the side of the receiver, on either side, there is a reinforcing tab that's been welded to help provide, obviously, more strength to the rolled and stamped steel receiver that we're familiar with from the G3. And that carries over to one of, I think, the most unique design features of this weapon is, as a machine gun, especially belt fed, we would expect that it would have a top mounted feed tray cover that would swing up and out. On the HK21 series, they actually moved it to a bottom mounted. Obviously, I've got a magazine feed unit here. If I had a belt feed unit, you would see that it would swing down from the bottom instead of open from the top. This has a couple of great advantages. It allows the receiver to be very rigid at the top, and through your STANAG mounting tabs, which had a claw mount that allowed return to zero when I mounted or dismounted an optic, it allows us to be far more accurate with a weapon that otherwise you would think is just for suppression. You can see that in the trigger group. Most machine guns just have safe and fire. With this weapon, you actually have safe, semi, 3-round, or full automatic operation. This allows you to take precise shots when you need to and take suppression shots when you don't through the use of this more reinforced receiver. Having a bottom-mounted feed unit would probably be a little awkward from a mindset standpoint if you're familiar more with the top-mounted one, especially here in the US, but it's actually the opposite. If I'm firing a weapon either in the prone or down in a foxhole type position, it's much easier for me to open it and have it swing down, put the rounds back on the feed unit, close it up there, than it would be for me to have to look up over the top or climb out of my foxhole and do it that way and then hop back down again. So it's actually a pretty ingenious design. And then if you move here to the back of the stock, you can see I've got detents here that stick out either side. These are designed for the weapon to fit into the German tripod, which also had a periscope that could be mounted so you could see when you're down in a foxhole position. And then you can see this famous kind of club foot design on the stock. This was so that you could use your support hand and bring the weapon back into your shoulder when you're firing. And then lastly, if you'll notice here on the right side, you'll see this forward assist or silent bolt closure device. This was put on the weapon because, again, if I'm in a prone or a position inside a foxhole and I have to reach up here to grab the charging handle and release it again forward again, I might not, because of my position, have the best angle on that. And what happens if I don't put the weapon fully in battery? Well, I can just tap on this forward assist and that'll put the rollers back into battery for me. So really unique system from H&K and very modular. What we see here on this specific one, because it's set up with a magazine feed unit as an HK11 Echo, is the incorporation here of a 50-round drum. It could obviously also use the G3 standard 20-round magazines. Okay? But the incorporation of this drum, which is actually referred to as the G8 drum, turns this weapon in this setup into a G8. Some people may not have heard of a G8 before. The real configuration is, as we see it here, incorporated with this 50-round drum magazine and a slightly shorter barrel. The standard barrels are longer. This was actually designed for German GSG-9 and their special operations uses, where they needed a machine gun, but in more capable fashion. Think about having to provide overwatch on a team that's going to make entry into a building. Now, you might have another H&K rifle, maybe a designated marksman rifle or sniper rifle that can provide overwatch, and it can take a very precise shot, but if instead you now needed to switch to suppression on target, that weapon's not going to be able to do that. In this capacity, now you could have a relatively portable weapon that has the capability to be very accurate with an optic on there, and then if we mount on a 50-round drum with the capability to fire a single shot for precision accuracy if needed, but also lay down suppression, that was a very popular option that they wanted to have in their inventory. So we saw service with the G8 configured model with GSG-9, and then with German special operations specifically their Comp Swimmer, which is their version of the Navy SEALs. You can see as well. They like this especially during insertion when they're in vulnerable positions. If they needed to lay down extra suppression, this made easy work of it. So this is a really, really cool weapon. It's one that I think a lot of fans of H&K have always been intrigued by, and it's definitely a bucket list item you want to get behind to shoot, because the rate of fire and the accuracy on this thing is just absolutely incredible. So I hope you enjoyed the video. As always, I am humbled to share my knowledge and experience with you. If you're in need of H&K service and support or unique training opportunities, give me a shout. That's what I'm here for. Thanks, guys.